I think we're alive. Hello, can you hear me okay? Is everything working? We're trying SteamYard this evening. Just want to make sure everything is all tickety-boo. That's a typically English word to use as well. If we can just get a boom in the chat, make sure everything's all right. See, Terry's here. Chris is here. Hi there, Curtis. Nice to see you. I think we're okay. I think you can all hear me. Hello there. Wonderful. Okay. So, welcome to the live stream. This is a special recording of the... No, you can't hear me. You can't hear me. Why can't you hear me? Really can't hear me? Ah, man. Yo. Okay, yeah, so this is a special live recording of the Lazarus Project podcast. And Christopher Hill here is already making his debut on the podcast by tricking me, thinking the mic's not working. So, in true podcast fashion, I don't host on my own. I have my co-hosts. And first to join us, when he is not directing his latest blockbuster films, he is usually trying to pick me up off the floor on a Saturday evening. Face reveal for Kraig.
Yeah.
Also known as...
If I knew this was coming, I would have put my hood up or something, done like a big dramatic reveal. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Welcome. This is the first time anyone's actually seen his face.
Yeah. It's so weird. How long's it been? Has it been like a year or two now since I first joined those multiplayer streams?
Yeah, it must have been. I think it was the first regular contributor I had, wasn't it?
I guess so.
So,
wow.
But the Lazarus Project podcast isn't complete without our third co-host. And this guy is so in love with Cerberus that he even has a tattoo of Kraig on his body. And yet when we did the top 3 Mass Effect characters, he was nowhere to be seen. It's isn't it, in fact, the Cerberus guy, Manning.
Hello. Everyone hear me all right?
Yep. Wow.
Yeah,
That's an impressive beard.
Thank you. I actually just trimmed it because it was a little off center. And again, in my defense, when we originally did that, I was under the impression that it was squad mates only. Otherwise, the Elusive Man would have been my 2, and Kraig would have been my 1.
Well, in this this live stream and episode, which you can catch, you'll be able to catch on all good podcatchers, so Spotify and Apple and all that jazz. So if your comments read out, be sure to have a listen, because then obviously you'll get mentioned as well. But yeah, we are doing our top 3 loyalty missions, and there is space on there for some bottom ones as well, if you guys want to add some ones in there that you really hate as well. And yes, we'll get some input from the chat as well. So if there's anybody in the chat that wants to also say what their top loyalty mission is for Mass Effect 2, then be sure to pop it here, and we'll pop it on screen as well. So who wants to start?
I don't know.
I can start. I was going to say, what's funny is I have no idea what Kraig's 3 is going to be, but I'm willing to bet money I can guess what his 2 and 1 are.
Oh, you can bet, but I actually don't think you'll be able to get it. I don't think you'll be able to guess, to be honest.
Anyway, so I'll start. So we're going 3 to 1, right?
3 to 1, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So my number 3 is Zaid.
Zaid. Why is that?
It's just, I feel like over and above like the moral question with the factory workers, and I know that people, like, I have a very strong opinion on that, and I'm sure a lot of people also do. I just think it's interesting because it kind of helps build Zaid as a character, because like when you first meet him, he's with the Batarian and just beating him up, and he just comes across as this gruff, rough and tumble mercenary type. And I feel like his loyalty mission humanizes him a bit, just because like once you actually get to Zoria, you find out how screwed up Vito is. I mean, like, say what you want about Kai Lang, but Vito Santiago makes him look like a choir boy. And it's just there's so much there that just kind of, I don't know if humanizes is the right word, but it just makes you understand why Zaid is the way he is. Like when you're waiting for the bridge to extend and he tells you about how he got shot in the face and he's been holding on to this grudge for like 20 years or whatever it was. It makes him more, even if you don't like him, it makes you at least understand how he is or why he is the way he is.
I still can't believe he survived that, though. That's just so ridiculous. Like, he gets gunned down in the face and somehow survives.
If you're stubborn enough, you can survive a hell of a lot, and rage is a hell of an anesthetic.
Bullet to the brain.
Which do you pick then? Do you pick to save the hostages or save to kill Vito?
I always kill Vito because it's funny because I get the draw of wanting to help the hostages, but it's fun. Like the whole reason you go there in the first place is because Elfeld Ashland wants you to get their factory back, and then if you let him leave, he's literally just going to do the same thing again. It's like it's similar to me to the Bring Down the Sky DLC in Mass Effect 1, in that, like, I don't understand how anyone can let Balak walk out the door. I mean, like, he was half an hour away from dropping an extinction level asteroid on a city of 4.5 million people, and you're just going to let him leave to do it again so you can save 6 random. Like, I feel bad for the hostages, but I mean, it's just 6 random people in a room. I mean, like, how do you let Balak or Vito leave? They're both just going to do the same exact thing again. It's not like they're going to like turn a new leaf because you let them live.
Yeah. Although you do kind of, I mean, I don't know how long the time span is, but like, does he really get enough time to have another chance at doing that anyway?
Well, I mean, he's been doing it his entire, like, I mean, he's like, the whole reason Zaid kind of quote unquote got kicked out of the Blue Suns was because he didn't want to like use slave labor or slave trading or anything. Vito's like, whatever it makes me $1, I'll do it. And like Zaid at least had some morals. Vito's just rotten to the core. Like I said, and again, like I said, say what you want about Kai Lang, but at least he had a human side. Vito's just a monster.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he still didn't do as badly as, was it Balak? You called him. Like, I feel didn't kill as many people as that guy did, or almost did.
Yeah, I mean, Balak might have been several orders of magnitude above him, but they're still essentially the same person. In my opinion, anyway. Feel free to disagree, chat.
We've got Christopher Hall here, says Balak does turn a new leaf, though.
He does, actually, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, actually. Like, does he really get an opportunity to drop another asteroid? You know, because there's a short time between the games, and then, you know, you can redeem him, basically.
Well, I mean, I guess technically I have let him survive once just to see what happens. And I know he replaces that other Batarian in the third game. But by turning a new leaf, all he basically does is convince the couple dozen Batarian ships that are still alive to ally with the Council. And the Batarian that replaces him, if he's dead, does the same thing anyway.
Yeah, who is the random Batarian that replaces him? Like, what's his relevance? Like, if he just shows up, you know?
Well, I know there's slight differences. I think if Balak, like I said, I only did it once, so my memory might be a bit foggy here, but I think Balak tries to just cause a ruckus on the Citadel, whereas the replacement Batarian, I think, is actually just trying to like steal food and supplies to actually help the other Batarian refugees. So in my mind, he's like a million times, at least, he's still doing bad things, but he's doing them for a good reason.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like it's got a bit more drama, though, if you've got a history with that Batarian.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple instances like that in the franchise where if someone's dead, just a random person pops up. But I mean, sometimes I think it's hit or miss, though, because like I would almost argue, like that Batarian, like there's no backstory at all. But I would argue with you that if Morden dies in Mass Effect 2, that Paddock Wicks is a more interesting Solarian in the third game.
Unless, right, just bear with me here, the one who steals the food in the third game is the Preacher in Mass Effect 2.
He's in the third game though. He's on Omega. You can walk by him while he's literally giving a sermon.
Oh my
in the
god!
DLC.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's literally. You can't interact with him, but he's literally. You walk by him near the end of the DLC, and he's literally giving a sermon.
Huh. God, I don't know. I missed that.
Do you have the Omega DLC?
Yeah, I do. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I've only played it like once or twice because it's kind of my least favorite of the DLCs.
You don't like the whole cat and mouse thing with Petrovsky?
I do, but it just feels a bit dragged out. Like it could have been an hour shorter, surely.
I will say probably my favorite part of that DLC. I mean, like I know we're off on a random tangent here, but real quick, my favorite part of that DLC is when you first go into the mines, and then like all of a sudden, completely out of left field, it becomes a survival horror game for like half an hour. Like where you're creeping through, and there's like just this dim midnight blue lighting, and with literally the universe's worst flashlight, and there's just dead, ripped apart bodies everywhere. And you can hear things growling and roaring in the background, but you never see anything for the first 20 or 30 minutes. I mean, it was legitimately the first time I did it kind of creepy.
I mean, it's not a horror if you're a level 50 Vanguard, let's be honest. It's just, it'll be over
No,
in
I
a
know,
few seconds.
But I mean, just like, that was such a sharp left turn from what the rest of the game was.
Yeah.
It's like when you do the Leviathan DLC and for like 2 hours, the game turns into an H.P. Lovecraft novel.
Yeah.
Elkan says Omega's the best DLC in the whole game. I think I'd have to disagree with that one. Personally, I think it's the Citadel. But I mean, that's just my opinion.
I'm kind of on the fence, to be fair. Sorry.
I was just going to say, one thing I will say, though, is I'm sure chat's going to vehemently disagree with me, but were Mass Effect real, and were I given the choice, I would 1,000,000% rather live on Omega than the Citadel.
I feel like the Citadel is generally more enforced. Like, I mean, obviously it's got the political side of it that's like a bit of a nightmare, you know, the red tape and whatever. But you generally, I feel like you're less likely to get stabbed on the Citadel.
That's true, but like you said, there's so much red tape and law enforcement and everything everywhere. It's just like, this might sound weird to say, but I feel like in a certain way, Omega is pure. Like you can just go there and just basically do whatever. You can just be yourself. There's no one's I mean, as long as you don't piss off Arya, you can essentially just do what you want. Like in that sense, I just think it's purer than the Citadel.
But also, people can do what they want to you as well, like just serve you poison drinks and stuff, you know.
Yeah, but that's evolution. It's like survival of the fittest.
That's one way of looking at it.
I know, but it's just like, I feel like living on the Citadel would be like living in George Orwell's 1984. Me just speaking personally.
Okay, do you want to go to your number 2 then?
Oh, we're doing like all like in sequence, so we're not going like now Craig's 3 and your 3, and then we do the 2s. I'm doing all mine.
Oh, we can do it that way if you wish.
Oh, it's up to you. You're the host.
Go on then, Craig. You
okay.
tell us.
To the surprise of everyone, because honestly, this genuinely isn't one of those things, right? I'm genuinely not I'm not picking it because I just want to surprise people. I genuinely do feel this way. My number 3 loyalty mission is Jacob.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I know your argument about the loyalty mission for Jacob, Manning. I know you just kind of feel like there are a lot of things that could be done better with Jacob's dad and everything, and I agree. But his loyalty mission is the closest I've ever gotten to being interested in his character. Because it's just like, you learn a bit more about his character. You learn a bit more about his dad. He basically doesn't open up at all before that loyalty mission. He says a little bit about some mission he went on with Miranda. But like, that's literally it. And in terms of like other backstory, like at least you learn a bit more about his dad. And I feel like stuff around the loyalty mission could have been done better. Like, you know, little things like Jacob saying, oh, my dad used to do this, this, and that before he left me, kind of thing. And then that would set up what happens in the loyalty mission better. But I think the reveal that his dad isn't who he thinks he is a really interesting reveal. And, you know, the whole thing about everything that he's doing, maybe it's taken to the extreme, to a point where you're just like, how can this be someone who he ever respected? But I do think the reveal about his dad not being who he thought he was just so interesting. And like, it was so dark. But I don't know. I just felt like it was doing something very different to the other loyalty missions. Not all of them, obviously, otherwise it'd be number one. But it was doing something quite different.
I'll agree with that. I would say, though, the one thing that I did think was kind of stupid over and above everything else was I don't really think they needed the whole toxic food thing to really make that loyalty mission work.
Also,
I don't know, maybe that's just me.
I just want to say, Elkin, what you're saying about not liking the character, I agree with you there. This is just about the loyalty mission. Just saying, okay? I'm right with you there about not liking him, but yeah.
The first time you played Mass Effect 2, were you aware of any of the other media that existed about Jacob, or were you just going in like completely blind?
I was completely blind, and I did read the comics that he was in, like just recently. Well, not too recently, but honestly, it hasn't really changed how I felt about him.
I just felt like Jacob, not even just his loyalty mission, but just as a character, like he comes across as like a genuinely nice person, and I just think that he was just butchered from the start. Like, I don't know if they just ran out of time with him or they couldn't flesh him out properly, but he just seemed like there was more that could have been there.
Yeah.
Over and above the loyalty mission.
It felt like they were trying to make him like a really close friend kind of thing, like a bro. But like it just felt like the broness was there, but like not knowing him well enough was kind of a big problem of me actually caring.
Yeah, and I think they improved on that dramatically in Andromeda with Liam. Because Liam's like the ultimate dude bro, but he's so much more fleshed out. And even that game was pretty heavily rushed. So, like I said, I just don't know what happened with Jacob.
I do like the whole sort of tit for tat thing with Jarl and Liam. That does sort of like make Liam a bit cooler, to be honest. And
yeah, the dude mailed himself a car, and like it's like super duper far in the future, like 600 years after the trilogy, and he still has like this ugly ass beer stained couch instead of like I'm sure he could find whatever. I'm sure there's a space IKEA somewhere, but he still chooses to use his like frat boy couch. I mean, like he's just such like a down to earth, genuinely likable person. To
New
me,
Mass
anyway.
Effect. New Mass Effect. Liara goes to Andromeda in the car Liam mailed. She just rolls up in that car.
I would pay money for that.
See, we've got some conflicting thoughts about it in the chat. We've got Unknown here, likes Jacob's loyalty mission. But then Elkham says, worst character in the game, even Morith is better than him.
Well, Morith's an awesome character, so that's not really saying anything. She was well in my top 5.
She doesn't have a loyalty mission though.
Well, I guess you could. No, I guess technically Samara's loyalty mission is also Morith's, because if you pick Morith, you get her loyalty.
Yeah. Murdering your character's mother to get her loyalty.
Yeah, but you conveniently cut out the part where she's a fanatical religious zealot who almost killed a completely innocent cop for not releasing her fast enough.
Yeah, I mean that's a problem with the code though. That's not a problem with her. That's just the code being dumb.
No, well, that she follows the code. That's like Wynn in Dragon Age. She supports the Circle and the Chantry. That's not a defense. Like, if you kill someone and then you get arrested and you're like, "Oh, you should let me go. It's okay because my religion said I could do it." That's not a defense.
That's fair. Okay, I'll give you that.
I have to agree with Terry here, I'm afraid. Liam is British, so that makes him better than Jacob.
Yeah, just got to reiterate, it's a British car he's sending to Andromeda. So it's got a wheel on the right side of the car.
Does that mean if Liam's British, so do you and Tim also have beer-stained couches anywhere in your house?
If I was allowed one, I would.
No, I've got a curry-stained couch, but that's not really the same thing.
That's I'll allow it.
I'm not cool enough. Sorry, not really.
Well, that's
not
actually
really a drinker.
that's even appropriate because I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that the official quote-unquote national dish of England is butter chicken.
I mean, I'll take it. I quite like butter chicken. You know, don't know about you, Tim, but I'll take that.
Don't think I've tried it before, but
You could certainly do worse.
Okay, shall I go?
I guess Tim's more of a kebab guy or doner.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
good doner meat.
Some chips and cheese and a good kebab. Oh, you. But anyway, let's get back on track. So my number 3 is Kasumi.
Okay.
This is mainly because the first time you ever play it, I find it's fantastic. You know, it's completely different from all the others. You go in there and you've got a bit of a mystery to solve, and you're acting more like a spy, and I absolutely think it's fantastic the first time you play it. Once you've played it 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times, it just gets so repetitive and boring, and the mystery's all gone, and you know exactly where to go, you know exactly what you need to do, which I suppose is the same for all of the missions, but at least with the other missions there's action and stuff. I mean, I know you've got action in the second half of Kasumi's, but it's just that party scene that kind of, I think it drags a little bit after you once you know where to go and what to do. But the second half, I do like the little Easter eggs you got in there. You've got the big ogre thing from Dragon Age. You've got all the different little statues and models and stuff that.
Isn't a Statue of Liberty there or something, or like part of the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, the head.
That's brilliant.
But you can imagine he's the kind of guy that would get that sort of stuff, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Don't tell me you didn't appreciate his famous, long-winded, "We're the fixers of the galaxy" speech, or whatever he says.
When you got to keep them talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do the dirty things that let the galaxy keep circling, or whatever it is.
The Locust is in there as well, which is an awesome weapon.
Oh, yeah, that's the best SMG, at least in Mass Effect 2. Anyway.
We do the things that keep the galaxy spinning.
Exactly. And also, I'll shout out Tim, because for the longest time, I had no idea what that accent was supposed to be, but then I watched his video, and apparently he's supposed to be South African.
Really?
Like I had no idea what that accent was supposed to be, and whatever it is, I don't think whoever voices him is from there. But Tim's claimed in his video that he's apparently supposed to be South African.
That's surprising.
Terry makes a very valid point here. Look, Kasumi is a fun, loyalty mission to just to play, but doesn't anyone recognize the face of Shepard 2 years after Sovereign? Which is, you know, it's Shepard would have been quite well known after the destruction of the Citadel, wouldn't they? All the TV interviews and possibly punching the reporter. And
what if it's all a big? Sorry,
you finish.
I was just going to say, what if it's all a big conspiracy where everyone at the party knows about the Shepard clone, and they just think it's the Shepard clone who's just wandering about?
I would say the two things to that, Terry, to finish my thought, would be, first of all, I mean, obviously it's dependent on how you play, but Shepard's face could be literally covered in scars and have red eyes. But moreover than that, when you first talk to Jacob, he goes out of his way, and also I think he lists it as one of the reasons why he left the Alliance in the first place, was that everything Shepard did was swept under the rug, and the Alliance went out of their way to make it like Shepard didn't exist. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know, just spitballing.
I did like the Seren statue. I thought that was quite a unique touch.
Solid gold Seren. I'd put a solid gold Seren statue in my house.
I'm surprised that's not on the BioWare store yet, the gear store.
Yeah.
Like, that's just printing money, isn't it? Get your own life-sized Saren statue.
There used to be a website that doesn't exist anymore, and it was like absurdly expensive. It was something like, I think, $10,000. But you could actually buy an actual iron, like the throne from Game of Thrones, and it was actually made of like proper iron. Like, it was ludicrously expensive, but you could do it. Someone should email. Actually, yeah, Tim, you're still affiliated with BioWare. Get them on that.
I'll do it right now.
I do agree with you, Tim, though. I do agree, like, that Kasumi's mission, sort of like Jacob, stands out from some of the others. Like, to me at least, like, ones like Thane's and Garrus's do kind of feel a bit like sort of mushed together, like you do those sort of in small areas kind of thing. Like, it feels like because they created a whole new area for Kasumi's mission, or like just a whole new planet, even like a whole new environment. It just feels a lot more interesting and sort of exciting.
And the city that mission takes place in is where Diana's from.
Where does it take place?
Milgram on Beckenstein. If you talk to Diana after every mission in Mass Effect 3, she mentions once that she's from
Oh my
Milgram.
god. You've really confused me there, because I thought you meant Diana from the streams.
Oh, no, Diana Allers.
It's just really confusing. Oh my god.
Sorry, I should have thought of that.
I was just thinking, is there a country called Beckenstein? I'm not aware. Oh my god.
Well, there's your YouTube short for the week, Tim.
Yeah. I think I prefer it that way. Okay. So yeah, Mannington, do you want to do your number 2 then?
So my number 2 is Jack.
Jack.
And I just think, I mean, like a lot of the other loyalty missions to me come across as very, you just shoot some guys, run to a different place, shoot some guys, run to a different place, and then at the end decide whether or not you killed the last person kind of thing. And I guess in a way, Jack's is similar to that too. But I like the way, like, even before you even start the mission, when she's telling you about it, she starts off, even if you don't romance her or you ignore her or whatever, she's so closed off and barely talks to you. But then once you start doing the process towards her loyalty mission, she opens up a lot more. And again, even if you don't like her, you find out so much more about her past. And then even while you're running around on the mission itself, shooting Varen, she tells you about the planet and how they had to cut the grass like every 6 hours because plants would take over. And then there's like 5 or 6 times where you stop and she'll be like, this is where they forced us to fight. This bloodstain is where I killed my first man. You find out so much more about her past. And I just find as violent and closed off as she is, it's just similar to Zaid's loyalty mission. It just really humanizes her. And you understand why she is how she is. And then on top of that, you find out that it also, in a way, kind of humanizes Cerberus, because you find out that what the people were doing was so screwed up that they were trying to keep it secret from the Elusive Man, because they were like, even the Elusive Man was like, this is too far, and he's going to shut us down if he finds out. We have to keep this all secret. I just feel like it does a lot to build both for Jack and as well a little bit for Cerberus.
See, I've got Jack on mine as well, but I suppose it's Jack's number 2 for me. I really like old buildings, and I actually watch on YouTube like urban explorers. So people going around buildings that used to be old and used and they're now derelict and that sort of stuff. So her mission kind of sits into my weird kind of thing with dilapidated buildings and wandering around her mission and seeing her old place, and like you can see where they experimented on her and where the kids fought and where her room was, and you kind of get this weird picture of what it might have looked when it was in its prime and that sort of thing. So yeah, I really quite like that. I thought it was quite good.
So is visiting Pripyat on your bucket list?
No. Well, it is, but not at the minute.
It's like, did you know that the town Silent Hill is based on is actually a real place?
Is it?
Yeah. I forget if it's on the Pennsylvania or West Virginia side of the border, but it's called Centralia. It's a real city. Or it used to be. It's a ghost town now. But it was real at one point.
Things like that, ghost towns and that, it's just, I love it. Absolutely love it. There's a lot of like derelict pubs and stuff, or bars, where people might know more as bars and that. But like leisure centres and swimming pools and that sort of stuff that are all dotted around the UK, and you can go on and people just go in there.
You should come to where I live. You should come to where I live. Everything is derelict. No one goes to any places in the centre.
But yeah, that if apparently if there's an open door, it's not breaking and entering. You can legally go in and have a look around as long as you don't damage anything.
And I'd imagine you're still not allowed to take things, though.
No, you can't take things. But
also, then, if considering what you just said, you'd love the Stalker games if you'd never played them. There's 3 of them.
Yeah, no, it's on my, I think it's on my back order list that I've got to play. But yeah, stuff like that, I love it.
Yeah, Christopher knows. Yeah, I think they actually even demolished part of it because they didn't want people to go there like touristy and then like fall into sinkholes, because I know that that's happened in the past.
I didn't know that.
I'm sure someone will correct me because I don't know, like I don't read the lore as much as okay. I was just going to say, like, I know I don't read like the lore entries as much as other people, but how do we know that the Elusive Man doesn't know about the experiments on Jack?
Oh, he knows. Of course, he knows. Edie says when you speak to her in Mass Effect 2, he only ever has a handful of projects running at one time so that he can have oversight over them.
Right.
So he might not want them to know that he knows, but he's going to know.
Then I do have to ask, Manning, how can you sort of see his point of view there then, if for what they're doing to Jack and what they're doing to those kids?
Well, I mean, I don't agree with what they were doing, but I mean, I guess I kind of painted myself into a corner. But if he knew, then that's wrong. But he also did. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he doesn't, at least in Mass Effect 2, he doesn't generally lie to Shepard that I can think of. I mean, other than, I mean, I guess technically the collect a ship mission where he could have let them know it was a trap, but then he had actual justification for not telling Shepard, because otherwise the collectors would have been spooked and they might not have even gotten the data that they did.
Yeah.
But maybe. If he knew, then that's, I mean, but again, people, like a person could make one severe F up and still generally be considered a quote good person. I mean, we've all done stuff in our lives that we regret, right?
I've never kidnapped children and tortured them, Manning. I don't know about you.
No, but I'm sure when you were like 5-6 years old, you stole a candy bar from the grocery shop or
I
something.
know, but they're not comparable.
No, but I'm just saying.
Stealing candy is not comparable.
No, but I mean, if you were a billionaire like hundreds of times over and ran a shadowy cabal, I mean,
I still wouldn't
that-
kidnap kids.
what if
I
it
don't think
saved the
so.
galaxy? I mean, that's like my justification. It's like in Mass Effect 3, after the mission on Sanctuary, where Joker's like, I can't believe Cerberus and the elusive man would stoop to that. And then Shepard's like, Cerberus was trying to control Reaper forces. And Joker's like, yeah, but that doesn't justify. And then if you pick the Renegade option, Shepard's like, and they succeeded. I mean, like, if the tit for tat is humanity dies or we live by doing, if we do the right thing but everyone dies versus doing the bad thing but we can actually save the galaxy, then you do the bad thing.
I mean, I suppose technically he might not know what methods they were going to. He would know that the project was alive and the whole project was to make Jack the ultimate biotic super soldier. I suppose how they go about it, he might not have known, but
It's the same thing. It's like Captain America. I'm like, Kraig, I'm assuming you've seen the movie. Do you justify what they did to make Steve Rogers into Captain America?
I mean, I mean, what do you mean? Like, all they did was sort of. I mean, I suppose it caused some pain. Obviously, it kind of, tortured him, but it didn't, kill anybody. It didn't cause long-term pain.
No, I know. Or another example, I don't want to get too dark here, but another pertinent example. Do you know something like 95% of all the information we have on hypothermia and how to treat it, how to diagnose it, how to do everything with it was because of stuff the Germans did during World War II? So, like, if you ever get like severe hypothermia and they save you and you don't have to have your hand or your foot cut off or amputated, that's technically because of evil things the Germans did 80 years ago.
Yeah, but okay. But do we know for sure what the Americans or the British or whoever sort of manufactured the Captain America serum or whatever, like, do we know for sure that they did something nefarious to get that?
No, but I mean, they're still taking a person and injecting them with something. They're like, we hope this is going to work, but we have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And like you say, who knows what kind of testing and research went on before they got to the point where they're like, okay, we think this is the serum.
Yeah.
It's like Garrus said, it's that ruthless calculus of war. Sometimes 10 billion people have to die over here.
Okay.
So 20 billion can survive over there.
Here's my rebuttal. One man who volunteered is a different case to a bunch of kids that didn't ask to be tortured.
David volunteered in Project Overlord, and I bet you probably 98% of people take him away.
Yeah. I don't think he asked for what he got in the end.
So, I mean, that's just, I'm just saying sometimes bad things need to happen so good things can happen. Bad things need to happen in the short term so good things can happen in the long term. If you think about it logically, like Project Overlord, when Gavin says that big speech about how if his research could save 1 million mothers mourning 1 million sons, it would be worth it. He was right. It's just the sons that his research saved weren't human; they were Quarian. Because without Project Overlord, you wouldn't be able to do the mission on Rannoch to shut down the Geth server.
I mean, I'm using the term human loosely here, but you still want to like retain your humanity. I mean, I know obviously it's a galaxy of races or whatever, but there is an element of what cost. I mean, I know the galaxy is at risk and everything, but honestly, if you look at their situation, right, they don't know for sure. Like, I'm not going to play the council here and be like, oh yeah, no, the Reapers aren't coming. Oh yes, Reapers or whatever. I'm just saying, like, there might not be as many of them as people would believe, and so their sacrifice is like, how are they really justified if they don't know anything? You know what I mean?
That's fair. And my response to that, Diana, would be, first of all, with the Reapers there, they're on like a pretty strict clock. But even if they weren't, even like assuming, say they had as long as they wanted. If you had two options, and option A was you can solve your problem in a month, but a bunch of people are going to die. And option B was you can solve your problem, everyone's going to live, but it's going to take 3 years. What do you do? What would you pick?
3 years.
Like, how many people are going to die in the meantime while
But
you're
you just said
waiting?
everyone will live if it would take 3 years.
No, well, like, yeah. No, but there was like a you know what I mean. Like, don't twist my words. You know what I meant.
I agree with what I get what you're saying there, Terry. If it's the end times, like if you know that the end is coming, like if you genuinely see the threat, then I can kind of see it. But like I don't know, it's a complicated situation, really. It's like I understand the hatred of the council when you know as the player what you know, but like how can they believe, like especially when Asari have lived for as long as they have, that some human who just comes along who's an upstart will say this, that, and the other, and they're just supposed to believe them?
I know, and I know it's a controversial opinion, but again, that's why I support what was going on at Sanctuary. Because never mind if, ands, or buts, they actually did it. It's not like it was a question, they did it.
Yeah, they did manage to figure out how to control them. I think that's also why some people don't choose control, though. It's like can you be better than the elusive man, or are you just going to, I don't know, like it feels like you're being just as bad as he did and everything that he did to make it possible, or like you can just destroy them and be the. I don't know if it's better actually, because synthetic life is wiped out. It's a whole thing, isn't it? We always talk about the ending of Mass Effect 3. Let's just go down that rabbit hole again.
Yeah. Death lives matter.
Okay,
Kraig, what's your number 2?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've still got number 2. Should mind my language. My number 2 is Samara.
I 100% thought you were going to say Garrus.
Yeah, you thought. I just think Samara's loyalty mission is very, very interesting. I think it's like you get to like do all of these different things to learn about. It feels a bit like a murder investigation, right? It genuinely feels like it was doing basically what Thane's loyalty mission was kind of doing. Like Thane's loyalty mission had like that interrogation scene, and you can threaten to like cut some guy's balls off and sell them to a Krogan or something. But like it felt like the other more subtle parts of like a murder investigation kind of thing were going on with Samara's mission. Like you're in this bar, you go like talking to these people, finding out all these different things, or I think actually you start out in the apartment of the victim and you find out all these things about how they met Morinth and whatever. And then you go into the bar and you talk to all these people. You try to impress Morinth by doing all of these good deeds or whatever. And it ends with this just such a shocking, like, I don't want to call it twist, but it ends with like sort of this shocking choice that no one expects, like this option to choose like between two companions. It feels like a massive decision that just comes out from nowhere, way out of left field. Like you can get a new companion and then kill off the one that you've got. That's just such an unexpected like thing to come up, really. And that just sort of like caught me by surprise. And to be perfectly honest, in my first playthrough, I didn't even get that option. So when I found out you could do it, that just sort of made me like love that mission all the more, that you could even do that. But like the fact that it's affected by morality, it just sort of makes you see the Renegade and Paragon thing in a whole new light.
See, I like that mission too, and it's funny you brought up Thane's, because like I said, my problem with Thane's mission, actually, never mind, I'll get to that later when we do our missions we hate, but I like hers because you would think a mission where you literally don't even fire a shot would be boring, but it's so well done. And like I said, there's so many things, and it has a lot of replayability too, because there's like 8 or 9 or 10 different situations you can resolve in the bar, and you only have to do 3 of them. So you could do it. You can literally play it a million different ways. It's just, like I said, really enjoyable. And like you said, you have to have, I think it's 4 out of the 5 bars of Renegade full to even have the option. So how many people even know that picking Morinth is even a thing you can do?
Yeah.
It's not something I've ever done. I'm planning to do it. I'm actually doing a Renegade run at the minute, and that's why I plan to do it, because I've never actually done it. I've heard her specialty is quite good.
Yeah, and I think Samara's bonus power, if I'm not mistaken, is Reeve, but Morinth's is, I don't know if it's called Dominate, but it's whatever the one is that mind controls enemies.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say now. Damn it, I'm really annoyed I forgot. It is just like, from my experience with the Morinth mission, it is kind of, I say Morinth mission, the Morinth conversations after you sort of recruit her, it does feel a little bit lackluster. Like, isn't the voice actor for Morinth the same as Jax, or am I getting that wrong?
I don't think so, but I'd have to double check.
Because she did sound very similar. So that's just
hold on. Let me check, because I know who voices Jack. Let me just Google search who voices Morinth.
But it just felt a little bit like I know it's one of those things, like it's a Ashley Caden situation where you can't voice too many lines for either one of them because either one could be dead. But like, it just feels like with Morinth, it really sort of stands out because, you know, she's such a rare choice that, you know, less and less people will pick. Like, and I think it just feels like, you know, even Samara as well, actually, there's less dialogue with her because it could be her or it could be Morinth.
And just real quick, it's 100% not Jack's voice actors.
Okay. It's strange because to me, like, her voice does sound very similar.
I'd have to listen to them side by side again, but I never really noticed it. But you might be right. But they're definitely 2 different people. And also, fun fact, I don't know if Easter egg is the right term because it's so random. But if you ever bring Morinth and Grunt specifically on missions, for whatever reason, there's a bunch of bonus random mass dialogue the 2 of them have with each other, which is mostly just Grunt or Morinth flirting with Grunt and then him calling her the S word and then her saying, "I love when you get angry." It's like so weird and out of place, but it's kind of funny.
Mass Effect 2 does feel like one of those games where it would have been perfect if they had those Mass Effect 3 mechanics, you know, the one where the companions can go between rooms. It would have been so interesting to see the Mass Effect 2 companions like just roam around and talk to each other on the Normandy. Like, especially with Morinth being there, like disguised as Samara. That would have been interesting.
Oh no, they did do. It's not really the same thing, but I know Kelly and Kasumi both eventually figure out that she's not Samara, but I don't think anyone. And there's some bonus dialogue, but I don't think anyone else does, from memory anyway.
Mm.
There's apparently there's a couple of inconsistencies as well. Either she gets named as Monrith at certain points in the game. When she's supposed to be named as Samara or something when she's in disguise or something.
To be fair, the Caden voice actor calls it Vermeer and Vermeer. So, you know. Like, I don't know if you saw that. There was like a voice recording thing he did. I don't know if it was for like a pre-game release promo or something. But he called it Vermeer instead of Vermeer. But
yeah, and that's like, there's a couple. Legion, I forget exactly what it was. But when you, during your conversations with Legion, at one point, he says something that did happen in Mass Effect 1, but he gets the planet wrong. I forget exactly what it is, but I know that happens. I'd have to re-listen to it, but I know that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in Star Wars as well. So,
well, Star Wars, the whole parsec thing.
I'll say thank you to Hollywood Guy for the super chat. I played Renegade where I intentionally killed Rex, Morden, and Grunt just to see what happens and keep Zahid alive.
I've actually never. I know it's possible for Zaid to die in his loyalty mission, but I've never actually seen it, and I'm not even 100% sure how you do it.
You have to do it after the end of the suicide mission, I believe. You get the option to leave him there.
Well, I've seen the cutscene. Something falls on him, and then you're just like, Shepard's like, "You're too crazy to be part of my crew," or something like that, and then just walks away.
Yeah, or is it if you just don't have the renegade option? It's one of the two, but yeah, you just basically just leave him there on the planet on his loyalty mission.
Also, Hollywood guy, did you kill Rex or did you let Ashley kill him? And is one of those better or worse than the other? There's a question.
Christopher says the conversations indicate there was a fight between Morden and Grunt, similar to Jack and Miranda. I've heard that as well. I think that'd be quite good.
What would that have been about? Like, I don't know if does
Genophage, wouldn't it?
Does Grunt really like? I mean, Grunt doesn't really care much about his people, does he? Like, he doesn't really sort of feel much loyalty to them until he becomes part of what's it called?
Clan Erdnot.
Oh yeah, Clan Erdnot. But I just meant like there was another sort of group he becomes a part of in Mass Effect 3. Is it company something?
Something company, yeah. Brain farting. Arlac company.
Yeah.
The star in where Tuchanka is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Grunt does care, doesn't he? Because he feels that he needs to be part of his clan, doesn't he? That he's getting all pent up and
I suppose
annoyed because he's
Grunt's technically immune to the genophage too, anyway, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or I don't know if immune is the right word, but he was built to just be able to ignore it, essentially.
Yeah, he's the perfect Krogan, isn't he?
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, actually, because all of those arguments take place after both respective loyalty missions, don't they? Like, the Miranda and Jack fight, I think, happens after both their loyalty missions. And the Legion and Tali fight, it happens after their loyalty missions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it would actually make sense maybe that they would fight because, like Christopher said, yeah, they do. Grunt starts to care, yeah, after the loyalty mission.
One thing I wish if I could change about Mass Effect 2 would be because there's so many over the 3 games. There's like the Cade and Ashley decision, the cure the genophage, don't cure the genophage decision, the Legion support the Geth, support the Quarian decisions, etc., etc. I wish there had been an exchange where you could pick between either Grunt or Okeer, because honestly, like, nothing against. I know I had him on my least favorite list, but nothing against Grunt. But just I would love to spend the game with Okeer because he just comes across as super interesting, and I would love to see like him interact with Rex after what Rex says about him.
I will be honest, I've done some playthroughs, like I played through Mass Effect 2 so often, I'm sure we all have. But like there have been some playthroughs where I just thought, if I just blitz through this, is there a chance Okeer will survive? Because it feels like something that should happen. If like you can kill them quick enough, then he doesn't get killed by whatever the toxin is or something that's killing him.
Yeah. And that's so anticlimactic too, because that I forget her name, but that woman, like the quote unquote boss of that mission, just comes across as so lame. Like, here's some random Krogan and some throwaway Blue Sun soldiers, and also have a mech. It's so anticlimactic.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always have to be somebody you've got a reputation with,
No, I know, but I'm just saying that could have been done better.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. That would have been quite cool, actually, if they somehow carried over, like, one of the pirates or whatever from that mission with Garrus or something. Like, I don't know if all of the leaders went out to try and kill Archangel, but, like, if there was one that sort of sat back or something, and when they lost all their men, they sort of turned tail and ran. Like, if they had some kind of involvement with one of the other recruitment missions or something, that might have been interesting. But
Or another thing that would have been interesting is, I think the elephant in the room is, whatever happened to that Krogan, the quote-unquote failed Krogan, who lifts the heavy thing out the way so you can even get up to the lab where Grunt is. He's just, I'm just going to sit here and shoot things. Did he survive? Did he die? What happened to him? I want to know.
See, another thing as well, actually, is you say there aren't many Krogan that are nice. That Krogan was nice. I felt bad for that guy.
No, yeah, I mean, it's just the Krogan, and like I've said, it's the same thing. The Krogan for me are the same as the Quarians. There's a few I like, but in general, I can't stand almost any of them.
Yeah,
I like Rex and Eve, but for the most part, and the mechanic is hilarious. Even Reeve kind of in a way reminds me of Logain, where he does bad things, but he's trying to do it to help his people. So, I mean, even Reeve doesn't really bother me, but just by and large, a lot of the Krogan I just don't like.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why, but like, I think you've just got to kind of trust that they're not all like that because of Rex, you know.
And it's just like, it's my reasoning for never curing the genophage is like I said, I love Rex and Eve, but I just don't trust his reign to last. It's like Garrus even makes a joke in the third game that they should hire him a food taster. And even in Mass Effect 2, the nicest thing anyone in even his own clan says about him is the mechanic. I think it was the mechanic who was like, well, he's in charge, so we'll see what happens, and if someone kills him, then we'll see who has the next best plan. Like, even his own clan was tepid at best towards him.
I mean, wasn't he like, do you know when exactly he became the leader of the clan? Like, I don't know how long he was in charge for. Up until
I think the Elusive Man, when you first talk to him, mentions something about him not. He went to Tachanka after Sovereign was destroyed and hadn't left the planet in 2 years. So I don't think he specifically says when he became leader, but it was sometime between 1 and 2, if he's never left the planet in 2 years.
Yeah, it just feels like surely in the 2 years, if they were going to try something, they would have.
Well, who's to say people didn't? I mean, like, they're Krogan. They're literally 800-pound, a race of 800-pound warmongers.
Yeah.
Thank you, one Hollywood guy, for the super chat. Personally, I shoot Rex and Morden just because. I must admit, the very first time I played, I shot Morden in the back. I was like, I felt awful, but I had to stop him.
I will say the one thing is, it's like I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If Rex is dead, you can talk Morden out of curing the genophage. The fact that if one person is not there, you can get Morden to change his mind, and considering how fast Krogan breed, is all the information you need to not cure the genophage, in my opinion. Like, one Krogan's not making a difference.
I think definitely I mean, like you say, like, I just feel like with Rex and with Eve, though, I feel like with the two of them, there's a better chance. And I do get what you're saying about, like, oh yeah, Rex, like, you know, his reign might not last very long because he's just one guy. But there is Eve as well, and I feel like she's got some kind of loyalty from the female clan as well.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, it's just, I can't, like, every other Krogan is like super duper bloodlust for revenge. So, and if Rex and Eve are the only two obstacles, at least that they perceive, that's preventing them from getting revenge, they're going to just be like, okay, well, let's kill them, right?
Yeah.
And again, like I said before in the other video, I would be very curious to know if Morden was 10 years younger, if he'd still want to cure it. Because, like, in Mass Effect 2, every time you broach the subject, and you're like, even if you're the super duper most ultimate paragon, every time you question him on it, he instantly has a perfectly logical response for why he did it. And then all of a sudden, when he's like a month away from dying, he's like, I don't want to be remembered for genocide. I'm going to cure this. It comes across as, like, I get people change their minds, but it seems like he flipped a switch. It just came across as weird.
I think for just storytelling reasons, though, it was kind of rushed because there's a lot of stories or characters to wrap up in 3.
And then I think the thing everyone forgets is it's not like the Turians and the Solarians did the Genophage because they were like, LOL, we just hate the Krogan. I mean, they did it out of necessity. The Krogan were like murdering everybody and conquering the galaxy. They had to do something. It was like the Reapers before the Reapers.
Well, Rachni as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was a whole other thing.
Well, the Krogan were a whole other thing. To the Reapers, I mean.
No, but I mean, like, at least the Rachni were at least, like, you could... I mean, like, it's hard to describe, but, I mean, that's 2 completely different situations. The Rachni were just... I mean, like, the Rachni at the end of the day are essentially, like, quote-unquote bugs. It's like... Whereas the Krogan consciously made the decision to do what they did. They didn't have to try to take over the galaxy. It would be like, would you consider the aliens from Alien, the Alien franchise, quote unquote evil? No, they're just doing what they're born and bred to do. They're not evil. They're just existing.
To be fair, you don't really know enough about those aliens. Like, you don't know how their brains work. They might be more intelligent than we know.
I'd say it's similar to the Rachni. There's a queen, and the queen can control the drones and the other aliens through pheromones. Like at that famous... Sorry?
I was just going to say, we spoke to the queen, and she seemed quite intelligent. Like, I think it was more that they were being controlled, wasn't it? The Rachni were being controlled by, like, Leviathan or something. There was something about a sour yellow note mentioned in Mass Effect 1.
Yeah. No, and I mean, like, the queen is super intelligent. But I was just going to say, it's like that scene at the end of Aliens when Ripley, she sees the queen and a bunch of aliens come in, and then she threatens the egg with the flamethrower, and then the queen just like looks at the other aliens and they all instantly leave. I'm like, that's control. Like the queen is intelligent, but she's controlling the drones and the other quote unquote lesser ones.
But is it just because they're babies? I don't know how it works.
Hollywood guy here, thanks again. It says, do we see a Krogan rebellion in Mass Effect 5? I think they've really painted themselves into a bit of a corner here. Because of your decision has a massive impact on them as a species. It's what are they going to do with them? I mean, on one hand, you could have cured the genophage, and there might be hundreds of thousands of millions of Krogan now in the galaxy, or you've not cured the genophage and they're still scattered and maybe dying out, maybe dwindling out. It's quite a lot to be looking to code into a new game, isn't it?
I think one way they could work around that would be, like, if you read the lore entry, it says that Krogan females can lay up to 1,000 eggs per clutch. So hypothetically, even if you cure the genophage and say all 1,000 are born instead of just one of them out of the 1,000, if you don't, I mean, like, just because of pure resource limitations, not all 1,000 are going to survive. I bet you like 3/4 of them are going to be dead within a week.
It can also just be like Inquisition, where they just sort of say, "Oh yeah, that stuff happened, but that's over there." You know, we have a ruler, but they're doing their thing over there. So they keep it vague, so you could still have your choices there. And
I suppose, yeah. I mean, they could say that the cure only worked for so long or something, or on the flip side of that, if you didn't cure them, they could say that the Krogan slowly adapted, so they're all still into the same place. So.
But it's just like all you need to do is just show Krogan in there and have them mention the fact that the Krogan is cured or not cured, or it could affect how the Krogan interact with you. Like they could be a bit more hostile if you didn't cure it or something.
Actually, I like Tim's point, because Morden specifically says in Mass Effect 2 that he had to personally go back to Tuchanka to update the genophage because the Krogan were starting to adapt to it. So maybe now that he's dead, they just adapted to it again, and because he's dead, no, maybe there wasn't a Solarian scientist smart enough to reinstitute it like a third version, and then that could be it.
It would be a bit of a cop out, though, wouldn't it? I mean, they've got to do something, obviously, but
Well, they alluded to it in Andromeda as well, didn't they? With Drax saying that they changed his cells or something, and then his 600-year sleep kind of helped advance it.
yeah.
So he got
It's
a kind
just-
of a kickstart on the genophage cure.
Yeah, it's a big situation with anything in Mass Effect 3. So many massive things happen in that game. Like, it felt like Andromeda was the perfect way to sort of put them to one side and then just be like, this is the new thing, you know. This
Yeah.
stuff's happening now, you know. Whatever could be happening in Milky Ways, you know, far away.
I know, and it was awesome too. And I'm still quite upset that we're never going to get a quote Andromeda 2 or whatever they would have called it, because whatever your feelings about Andromeda are, how the game, I'm not going to spoil it because I know Tim's never going to finish it, but how the game ends is the literal perfect jumping off point for an Andromeda 2.
Maybe Tim's just timing it to release the final episode when Mass Effect 6 comes out, you know? He was waiting for, you know, the second act of the next trilogy that's coming.
We should start a poll on your community tab about what you're going to finish first, Andromeda or Trespasser.
It's a good poll, to be fair. Okay, so where are we up to?
We're up to our number ones, I think.
Number ones. Manning, what is your number one?
Okay, my number one is Kasumi.
Kasumi. So Kasumi gets bumped up.
And I think she was your 3, right? Not your 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I know, I guess technically it can get a little boring and repetitive, but to be fair, all of them can be boring and repetitive. And I just enjoyed exploring Hawk's, I don't know if we could call it museum, where like he has all these random things, like you say, the ogre from Dragon Age, the Statue of Liberty's head, all these other things. And I just really love, the second part is just, once you leave the museum, or whatever you want to call it, the second part just basically turns into gunplay, and then the boss battle when he's in the gunship is kind of fun. But I just love. I can't express how much I love that the first half where you basically just get to be James Bond for an hour. Like, it's so much fun. Even if you know exactly what to do and where to go, it's just so much fun.
I like the fact that you got a new outfit after you complete that mission.
Yeah, and well, actually, do you get to keep the suit if you're a male shepherd? I know you get to keep the dress if you're a femme shep. I forget if you get to keep the suit or not, though.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay. I always just wear the long Cerberus officer coat, so I just forgot, I guess. But yeah, it's just like I said, it's just so much fun getting to be James Bond for an hour, for lack of a better word.
I did like Christopher Hall just says there that the gunship fight's fun. I did like the way that ends, where you have to kind of get the shields down, and then Kasumi gets up on there and disables it and stuff. That was quite cool.
I know, and that would be that cut scene where she does that always made me wonder what, because when Garrus says later on in the game about how when he was sparring with that female Turian, and he's like, I had reach, but she had flexibility. Just to see Kasumi like jump off and like land in a full splits, I was like, oh, I want to watch Garrus fight Kasumi now. But yeah, I just thought it was a blast, and it's a nice change of pace too. I mean, like, I know it eventually does just turn into gunplay, but it's nice. The parts of the game where you don't just have to like run around and shoot things are fun. It actually is like world. I don't know if world building is the right term, but I think you know what I mean.
Sort of expands on the galaxy or the lore, kind of.
Yeah, and it's a change of pace. It's like some of my favorite things to do in Mass Effect 2 are like the goofy side quests. Like when you're on the Citadel, like there's like a 10-minute side quest you can do with those 2 Krogan, and you can either buy them a fish or lie to them and say there's fish upstairs, or you can go grocery shopping for Mess Sergeant Gardner, or you can help those 2 Asari get fake IDs or use your Spectre authority to let them leave. It's just like the goofy side quests that most people just consider throwaway. I just find is like fun world building, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm weird.
I get that. Yeah, I mean, it's to be honest, I completely understand like why you two have put Kasumi's loyalty mission where you have. Like, it does stand out, like with the music, the whole James Bond style to it. But
oh, that's another thing. Yeah, that music for the first part of that is A+, A++.
yeah. But like even just the game mechanics, I guess, like the fact that you've got to solve these puzzles to get into the vault, it's just it's just well designed in general, because it just, I don't think there's any other loyalty mission that sort of is that complex.
And again, Mr. Hawk's "We fixed the galaxy" speech was just chef's kiss.
I could just imagine you being in the crowd, man, and be like, yeah, like.
Well, actually, I'd be considering how renegade-y I am, I'd probably be invited to his party.
Yeah, be in your honor.
Yes, I'd be the official Cerberus representative.
Hollywood guy here says consuming his loyalty was meh for me. I'd place her along with Jacobs. I actually quite like Jacobs, to be fair. I was considering him for my list.
When you do consume, sorry,
I was going to say I just like the whole island setting and kind of taking advantage of being a god sort of thing, and then it all came crashing down. I quite like that, but we only had space for 3, so
I will say the one thing about Jacob's loyalty mission, the first little bit before any of the combat starts, where you're just exploring the wreck of the ship, and there's all these like these audio logs you can only half hear. I mean, there is a bit of like mystery. Like, it's again not really a puzzle, but you're like, oh, what's going on here? How come if they were here for 10 years, why did the recording only come up 9 days ago or whatever it is? And then what are all these people talking about? What's going on here? And then you meet them, and they're obviously something's not right with them. It's just like once you figure out what's going on, then you're like, okay, his dad's a dick. But while you're trying to sort out what's actually happening, it's kind of interesting.
It's a shame that, I mean, the ship's huge, absolutely huge. And it's really impressive when you first walk up to it, but you can only walk on to like a very small section of it. It's quite disappointing. It would have been better, I think, if you could have actually had a bit of an explore of it.
I think if there was more information to set up who Jacob's dad really was, like if Jacob was kind of like, if he said a little bit about the best parts of his dad, but then said little things about like things that seem very strange, but and sort of raise questions, like he'd go off and do something and not tell you where he was going or whatever, like he'd do some shady stuff, and then it's kind of setting up that maybe he's not who Jacob thinks he is, and then like, you know, what he does isn't, it almost sort of, it's more interesting because it actually feels like you could go back and be like, oh my god, yeah, so he was doing something like on the side, maybe to make money or whatever, and you know, it feels like it would set up that a bit better.
And I do quite like Tim's idea as well of like, if you could explore more of the ship. Like, they could have done something like, do you remember in Republic Commando? I think it's like the 3rd or 4th mission where you're investigating this ghost ship and you have no idea what's going on. It's just sitting there and nothing's happening. You can't find anyone, and it's almost like playing Dead Space for half an hour. And then obviously the action picks up after. If they had done something like that, I think might have been pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So anything more to say on Kasumis?
When Hawk confronts you in the museum, do you hit the renegade interrupt and shoot the vase just to piss him off, or do you let it slide?
Gotta shoot the vase. Gotta be done. Even if I'm playing as a Paragon player, it's like, why not just get him all like cross and stuff?
Yeah, it's just too tempting.
But I think that's everything I have to say on Kasumi.
Okay, so my number 1. I really struggled with this because there's about two or three that I really like, and obviously I can only pick one. So I narrowed it down between a toss-up between Garrison and Tally's. And I'm afraid I had to go with Tally's, purely on the basis that because you can, it doesn't signpost it, it doesn't tell you can do it. It is just a case of, oh, I wonder if I can bring Legion to Tally's loyalty mission. And it lets you. And that is, absolutely fantastic. If you didn't think of doing it in the first instance and you just went and did her loyalty mission straight off, you get a completely different, well, it's not completely different loyalty, but there's a load of different dialogue and stuff. And yeah, I just thought that was absolutely brilliant. And I love the trial that you've got about 3 or 4 different outcomes that you can get from her trial as well, which then feeds into Mass Effect 3, because if you don't have the right one, then you can't get peace between them. But then if you pick the wrong one, she gets upset with you. And if you're trying to do the right thing, it's brilliant. And then obviously as you go and look for a dad, you find out what he's actually been up to. And yeah, I really, really enjoy doing her loyalty mission. I always take Legion with me now as well.
Surely someone would have shot Legion though. Like bringing a Geth onto the live ships, like that's like somebody would have drawn a gun and fired at Legion.
Well, if you bring them, there's like 6 people draw guns, and then Shepard stands in front of them and is like, if you shoot him, I'm taking my helmet off and coughing everywhere.
Okay, but like Shepard doesn't do that in every room on the ship. Somebody would have shot Legion, I swear.
Diana, real quick, yes, just because it's hilarious, I'd normally send them into the room and be like, charge.
Hey, Diana Vass, I forgot to ask, do you guys have the guts to kill Nif? Is it Niftu?
It's Niftu Kal.
Niftu Kal, the biotic god. I for me, it all depends on if I'm doing a Renegade or a Paragon playthrough.
And it's best if you have Jack with you, because if you do it, she'll be like, Shepard, that was mean. It was freaking hilarious, but it was mean.
Yeah. Coming from her, it must have been.
Well, Jack, as far as like zingy one-liners go, was one of the best in the. Have you ever brought Jack on Miranda's loyalty mission? When you get to Captain and Yala at the end, and then Miranda's like, "Take your best shot," and Yala's like, "I was just waiting for you to get dressed, or does Cerberus actually let you whore around like that?" And Jack's like, "I like her. Are we still recruiting?"
Yeah.
I think the thing with tallies, though, is, first of all, I just want to make a quick correction. You can make peace with any of the outcomes. The only 2 main requirements are Legion and Tally both have to be there. But as long as both of them survive Mass Effect 2, the result of her trial can be anything, and you can still make peace.
I think she needs to be an admiral. Pretty sure she needs to be an admiral for it to work.
I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive, because even if in her trial, if you hide the evidence and let her get exiled, then in the 3rd game, she's still an admiral. She's just a secret admiral. Like, they don't tell anyone else in the fleet, but she's still an admiral.
Yeah. I mean, either way, like, I do think Tally's loyalty mission is really interesting. And, hearing more about her father and, like, how basically it's a better way of executing what Jacobs was trying to be. Like, it's funny, actually, how a lot of people joke about how basically all of the companions in Mass Effect 2 are, like, daddy issue, whatever. They've all got daddy issues. But, like, it's almost like Tally's loyalty mission with the, I don't want to say twist again, but the whole thing with her dad not being who she expected is a better execution of what Jacob's, turning out to be not who he expected.
Here's a question for you guys. If you think what Cerberus did at Sanctuary was wrong. How do you feel about what Rail Zora was doing to the Geth?
How do you mean?
Well, they were basically Cerberus was killing humans to find a way to control Reapers, and Rail Zora was mutilating and torturing Geth to find a better way to kill them. It's
Geth
the exact
machines.
same thing. The Geth are people, Tim. But other than that, what happened at Sanctuary is essentially the exact same thing as what Rail was doing to the Geth.
Terry says it perfectly. How could software have a soul?
Because they're people. They're sentient. Anything sentient. It's like Engineer Adams says in Mass Effect 3 when he's arguing with Chakwas, or I guess Chloe, depending on which doctor you have. And he's like, if that Geth is just standing over there minding his own business and doing his own thing, he has just as much right to exist as I do.
Hmm.
And okay, how do you feel about Edie then, Terry? Does Edie have a soul?
While we're waiting for Terry to respond, I've just found out what you need for making peace. The things you must have is that you must have activated Legion. Shepard must have completed Legion's loyalty mission. Both Tally and Legion to survive. And the Geth fighter squadrons in Mass Effect 3. The Rannoch Geth fighter squadron ones. They're the ones that you have to have done. And then it was all based on the point system, and you need 5 to 7 points in order to get peace. And if the admiral's acquitted Tally at a trial, it's a 2-point bonus.
So that's funny because I've read a couple different lists that said different things. Because I also remember, I swear, I read a list once that said you had to, when you do the mission to rescue Chorus, at the end you had to save him and not the other survivors. So then one time I intentionally let him die to save the survivors, and then I still was able to make peace anyway. So I'm pretty sure there's some different lists out there. But I do know about the secret point system.
I love Terry's answer here. Nope, Edie's a warfare program. Give it a sexbot body, it doesn't change it, it's still software.
So you're saying then that Joker fell in love and presumably married something that doesn't have a soul? Yeah.
Must be.
Agreed, Angel. My Twitter handle literally has hashtag Geth Lives Matter in it.
Thank you for the super chat there, Angel. But yeah, so I mean, as far as the tally go, I mean, I think it's a really good story beat as well. I mean, you get to see the actual what do you call them? The live ships. Are live ships?
Yeah, it's your first time going on one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's the only time you go on one.
But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Are you got any more thoughts?
Well, I guess the next logical question would be, just because there's so many ways to sort the trial out, what's your favorite way to do it? I would normally probably say rally the crowd, but I always give Vitor to Cerberus. Come at me, chat. So that's never an option. So I always pick the Renegade one because I think the way Shepard physically shouts them down with the Renegade answer, calling it a sham and a kangaroo court, and then swearing at them is a lot more impactful than just the Paragon one where he's like, Tally's a good person. How could you exile the person who helped save the Citadel? It just comes across as corny.
Does he usually...
Why do you give Vitor to Cerberus? It's pointless.
Because the Quarians already proved, like this, like I forget if it's Jacob Miranda, but I think it's Jacob. Anyway, one of them says the core, or actually I think it's Shepard. If you pick the Renegade option, when you tell Tally, he's like, the Quarians have already proven they don't want to play ball. Whatever the guy's name, I'm having a brain fart, runs off ahead to try to steal Vitor before you can even get there, even though you're trying to help. Just, I don't trust them. And it's like, when you first walk into the room where Tally is, everyone pulls a gun on you. And then you can actually pick. I like picking the option where Shepard's like, Tally, you served on me on the Normandy. You know what happens to people who point guns at me. It's just the Quarian, they just, and it's also been 2 years, so who knows? She doesn't even, at first, even believe it's really you. So I'm just like, I don't care about his Omni tool. I'm going to take his Omni tool and him. And then he gets returned unharmed in the end anyway, so what's the difference? He just had to spend a couple extra hours on the Cerberus ship, but he still goes back completely unharmed.
Well, I don't think he goes back unharmed.
Well, he has, yeah, but it's like when you get to, if you give him to Cerberus, when you get there and you talk to him and his doctor, there's an option to say when he's like, oh, he was suffering from malnutrition, dehydration, exhaustion, this and that and the other thing. And you can just be like, yeah, well, your patient was pretty mentally disturbed before we even got there. His results, or his condition, is the result of the Collector attack, not anything Cerberus did. Then Tally gets mad at you and is like, Shepard, you're actually defending what Cerberus did? And then even the doctor's like, Tally, it wasn't physical torture. The drugs I found in his system were to help keep him lucid. She does say, I guess, that it was a bit more harsh than they would have preferred, but it wasn't torture. Cerberus didn't do anything wrong to him.
You can see why they rushed ahead in the first place, though, during that mission. Like, the Quarians have a very good reason to not trust Cerberus, with what happens in that novel.
Yeah, and Cerberus has a very good reason not to trust the Quarians. That goes both ways. And also, you're right, Christopher, it was Praza.
So that brings you to you, Kraig.
Okay.
He's going to say Tally. I know it.
You would think. But my top loyalty mission is Legions.
Legion?
Because I just think the amount of times that I've just debated with people about, like, the choice between brainwashing the Geth or destroying them, it's just that whole argument is just one that you can't win. And I just think that whole thing is like, that's the one instance, I think, in the whole trilogy where I think, I mean, I know you'll disagree with me, Manning, but to me, it feels like there's a definitive one where there's no right or wrong answer. And it's such a hard decision to make. I mean, I know, I think it's partly dictated by how you feel about the Geth as well. But, like, I don't know. I love so much about it. And also controlling turrets. How cool is that? You know, playing tower defense with turrets.
I think the thing with Legions is, or not so much with his loyalty mission, but the decision is, I don't to this day understand how. I think, like, I would love to ask whoever programmed it or whoever came up with the concept, rather, how they decided, because I would have personally flipped them. To me, destroying the Geth is the Paragon and brainwashing them is the Renegade. Because, like, I mean, like, I can't speak for anyone else, but I'd rather be dead than a zombie. And it's just, and another thing, just to counterpoint Tim thinking that the Geth don't have souls. Have you noticed, if you bring Legion on Tally's loyalty mission, he's nothing but respectful and talks to her and tries to help her. But if you bring Tally on Legion's loyalty mission, she's like a giant dick to him.
They kicked her off her planet. What do you expect?
Only after they tried to destroy them. And it's even if you bring Legion on the mission to recruit Tally, he's nothing but, she points a gun at him and he's still nothing but respectful.
I do like wandering around the guest ship and you see all the, I think that's the right one, isn't it? You see all the primes and that in the charging stations, and then you've got no choice but to cross the floor panels and stuff. You can't kind of weave your way around it. You've got to blow up the charging stations so that they become active and that.
I do think there should have been a way to do that stealthily. It felt like it was designed for you to be able to sneak by, but there's literally no way, is there, to actually, not trigger it.
Well, you can quote unquote. I think what they wanted was like they wanted you to have to fight, but they made it stealthy to the point where you could at least get yourself in like the perfect position and not trigger them early.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just like, what's the difference though between triggering it early and triggering it, later on? You're still having to fight them.
Well, if you're playing on easy or narrative or whatever, then it doesn't matter. But if you're on insanity, you definitely want to like set your team up before you get the Geth Primes angry.
True. It does feel like with the whole argument that the whole mission is about, though, I think the decision is all about how you feel about the Geth. If you see them as living, evolved entities, or if you see them as just machines, like it feels like in a mission like that, there should be an alternative to sneak by and not alert them, so you can be a bit more peaceful and a bit more diplomatic. But I don't know. It doesn't make much of a interesting loyalty mission, I guess, if you don't get to fight anyone.
No, I mean, yeah, I guess. But again, and I just think, honestly, in my personal opinion, they got the decision backwards. Destroying them should be Paragon, and rewriting them should be Evil. Or Renegade, sorry.
To me, it doesn't feel like either one should be Renegade or Paragon. It feels like both. I can kind of see people's reasoning, like whichever one you go for.
You don't think literally rewriting someone's brain to force them to do something against their will is even? Never mind evil. That's not even a little renegade-y to you. Like I said, I'd rather be dead than a zombie, like flat out.
Yeah, it's just even at that point, though. I suppose they hadn't fully evolved into AI at that point.
They still needed to be like linked together. Like the more that were linked together, the smarter they got. Like Legion was a one-off because he had Reaper bits in him. But like if you just took a random Geth and threw him out to a field, it'd be pretty dumb. They don't fully achieve like full sentiency until Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
When if you can't make peace, you side with the Geth because the Quarians are genocidal war criminals.
So at that point, even you can say that, like, the Geth aren't sentient beings until Mass Effect 3. You can make that argument.
Huddle guy asks, Manning, do machines see the humans as soulless if you destroy other Geth?
No, I think the Geth are aware that there's a conflict going on. So I mean, like people, like in any war, people are going to die. So I don't think they would view them as soulless. I would just think they would view them as enemies. It's like if you and I were on opposing sides of a war, and you shot me or I shot you, I wouldn't view it as killing a person. I'm killing an enemy, or you're killing an enemy, or whatever.
Okay. Do you guys have any loyalty missions that you absolutely can't stand doing?
Yes, and it's Thanes.
Thanes.
It's boring, it's monotonous, it's tedious. You never, with the exception of possibly doing it in a cutscene, you never fire a shot. It's a walking simulator for like 10 minutes, and then there's a cutscene. I mean, it's so dumb and it's so boring, and it's so tedious and it's so monotonous.
I must admit, I was disappointed that a master assassin, and you don't actually get to assassinate anybody.
Yeah, but I'm sure like watching and waiting is a part of the job.
I did enjoy the interrogation thing scene though.
Yeah,
I like the whole good cop,
cool.
bad cop thing. I thought that was quite cool.
I forget what the exact line is, but I will say if you shoot the guy and then pick the renegade option, I forget the exact line, but Thane's like, was that really necessary? And then Shepard says something really, like, again, I wish I could remember the line, but it made me chuckle. He's like, well, he was a criminal and a murderer and a this and a that and a racist. And then Thane's like, okay, fair point. But like I said, I wish I could remember the exact line, but it did make me chuckle.
Craig, you got any that you absolutely hate doing?
Grunts.
Grunt.
That's another good one. It's literally just playing like a horde mode for 5 minutes. You don't even
Yeah.
go anywhere.
I mean, the first time I played it, I thought it was interesting. Like, they have that whole little speech about the history of the Krogan between rounds, which is cool, I guess. And the whole thing about sort of Grunt finding a family at the end of it. But once you know everything that's going to happen or what little that does happen, like, there's really less of a reason to want to do it, other than, you know, I do still care about Grunt and I still want his loyalty, but it's tedious to do the mission.
I will say the one positive that mission has is there's an absolutely ridiculous amount of things you can hack to get free credits. But I will say the first time I did it, like the set piece where you're like you spend all of Mass Effect 1 fighting what, like 10, 12 Thresher Maws in the Mako, to then have to fight one on foot was interesting, but after a couple times, even that's like, okay, can we just get this over with?
To be fair, you can fight one on foot in Mass Effect 1. You've got a very small chance of living, but you can.
You get that, and I know you get bonus XP if you do it on foot too.
Oh my god, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you anything you kill in the Mako, you get less XP than if you kill it on foot.
So have you done it?
I don't think I've ever killed a Thresher Maw on foot, but I've killed a Geth Colossus on foot.
Yeah, you kind of wear it down with your Mako first, then just hop out and finish it off.
At the end of the day, especially if you play Mass Effect 1 on, I think it's called traditional or regular, whatever the mode is, it's physically impossible to get to level 60 on one playthrough anyway. So the levels kind of don't even matter. And even on Insanity, you only really need to be like level 40 or 45 to beat the game fairly easily. Well, I think the thing is there, Christopher, in Mass Effect 1, the Thresher Maws can instantly kill you even if you're in the Mako. The one on Tuchanka, or the one in Mass Effect 2, rather, sorry, can't. And hell, there's even a, I don't know if they patched it in the Legendary Edition, but in regular Mass Effect 2, there's a place you can stand where it physically can't even hit you.
I did not know that.
Well, we have 3 left. So between us, do we want to put them onto the tier maker list?
Sure.
So where would you think Garrus should be?
I liked Garrus's loyalty mission, and it's interesting how you can try it if you're, depending on if you're Paragon or Renegade, you can try to talk him down or just say F it and let him kill Lantar. My only issue with Garrus's loyalty mission is I feel like it was way too long. Like, that warehouse didn't need to be that big.
Yeah.
That's
honestly,
a very big
like
warehouse. And at one point, you kind of turn a corner and you've got 2 of those Loki.
The Immermechs, the Loki mechs are the small ones.
Oh yeah, that's the one. 2 of them
I
just take on. It's like, oh.
I know Harkin is smart enough to like see, disguise his identity and hide, but I don't think he's smart enough to set up his warehouse like that to be able to like make it defensible.
I would honestly say that the Loki mechs are more annoying than the Immermechs, because there's just so many of them, and the voice is nerve-grating like nails on a chalkboard. And I don't think they're not the hardest enemies in the world in any game I've ever played, but I can't think whoever created Loki mechs, I swear, was trying to troll, because they're just so irritating. They're not hard, they're just irritating.
Tim, will you ever play Mass Effect on Insanity? No. I like to have my controllers in one piece.
You don't want the trophies?
No. But no, thank you for the super chat there. No, I used to have a tendency of launching things across the room when I couldn't get past a certain point. So I've kind of learned just to enjoy the story now rather than to get cross with bullet sponges.
But just getting back to the Loki mechs for 1 second, if I may. It's like, you know, the one side mission, I forget what the planet's on, but it's after, because you land on the one planet and you find a crashed ship where like the virus made all the mechs go crazy. then you go to Jowry Station, and then the third one, like to finish it, where you go to that factory, it's like a maze of containers, and there's, I swear, like 6,000 of those mechs, and you have to like inch your way forward because they come at you in like waves of like 20 or 25. And like I said, they're just super annoying, and it's super tedious, and that voice just like it is so bad. There's such, like, whoever created those enemies, I swear was trolling.
So what do you think then, Craig? Where should Garrus be?
I think number 2, to be honest. I think
Heading to
because
target?
because of that like sort of tedious fight, but also like it does feel a little bit closed off. Like it's a bit of a shame that so much of it is in cutscene. So much of the interesting stuff is in a cutscene. That's just for me. That's just me though.
You agree with that, Manning?
Yeah, I think so. I was going to say I like the mission on it, like itself. It's just I wish it was a little bit shorter. Although one thing I'll ask the two of you is, do you think there should have been more to do with Harkin at the end? Like Garrus just shoots him in the leg and lets C-Sec arrest him. Do you think there should have been like a more renegade-y option where you kill him, or you just let him walk away and tell him, I better not catch you jaywalking, like just like smarten up kind of thing? Like, were you satisfied with what happened with Harkin, how it ended?
I think he kind of got what he deserved, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be kicked in the nuts by Garrus, that's for sure.
Do you let Garrus shoot him in the leg, or do you stop him?
Oh no, he needs to be shot in the leg.
I didn't even have to think about that.
What about
Kraig?
the sniper shot at the end?
I always let Garrus kill him, or kill Lantar, but I don't immediately do it. I get in his way at first so that Lantar can explain what happened, and then when Garrus decides, yes, I still want to kill him, then I let him take the shot. But I don't just be like, okay, hi, and then move out of the way. I let him give his side first. Kraig's over there like, I don't let Garrus shoot Harkin, and I make him let Lantar live.
I mean, I get the logic between. To be honest, I completely understand someone who wants to kill Sidonus for what he did, but like, yeah, when you find out that information about how tortured he is and how I think he was forced into a situation where he had to do it. I think there was somebody else who tried to make him do that. So I don't know. It's a slippery slope, really.
I almost feel like you're doing him a favor letting him get shot, because after he explains to you what happened, he even goes on to say, like, he can't sleep. He wakes up every 5 minutes in a cold sweat. Like, food has no taste for him anymore. He has no friends. Like, he doesn't love anyone. No one loves him. It like almost feels like you're doing him a favor by letting Garrus shoot him.
Yeah.
It's quite mixed in the chat. Angels is I let Garrus snipe the dude. Whereas Soleg, sorry if I butchered your name there, says not. And Diana says it's great resolution no matter what. So 50-50 all round, I think.
What actually happens if you force Garrus to stop? I've done it before, and I know he gets really pissy with you, but he eventually forgives you. Like, is it a Zaid situation where you lose his loyalty, but then you can earn it back, or does he just get mad at you? It's been so long, I forget.
I don't think you lose.
Yeah, you don't. You still get his loyalty. I think if you let him live, he actually saves a bunch of children as well, if I remember rightly. Or you get a message saying he helped.
Yeah. The Mass Effect 3 thing where everyone you save in Mass Effect 2 does a good deed in the third game, but you only ever find out about it through an email 90% of people probably missed.
Yeah.
Then there's those characters that get killed off in an email.
You mean like Emily Wong driving her news truck into a group of husks to let a bunch of children escape or something?
Or Calriga. Is it Calriga? I think he dies in the email.
He dies. I forget who he was saving, but I remember thinking, like, I think they were trying to make it not controversial, but he saved a group of people that you wouldn't think a Quarian would normally save. Maybe I don't think it was a Geth, but it was something. I just remember thinking it was a little odd.
Volus.
Maybe it was Turians. It definitely wasn't Volus. Because that's like, if you let the guy at the end of Jack's loyalty mission live, I know he saves a bunch of, I think it's school kids or biotic kids or something like that.
Christopher says Riga saved Turians.
Okay, that makes sense.
Riga held the line.
When you do Tally's recruitment mission, do you tell Rieger to stay down so he doesn't help you, or do you let him stand up to fire his rockets, but then you're on a time limit or he dies?
Oh, is that on a time limit if you let him fight?
If you let him fight, you have to finish the mission pretty quick, otherwise he dies. But he can live if you tell him to fight.
Because I think I did a playthrough once where I did let him shoot just to see what happened, but he still lived. So I was like, well, that was pointless.
Yeah, but if you take too long, he dies.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
I don't know what the timer is, but he can die if you take too long.
I wonder if it's one of those things where they loosened it a little bit in the Legendary Edition.
I wouldn't be surprised, because like I said, I've only played the Legendary Edition a bit, but I swear they dumbed Insanity way down, because it's nowhere near as hard as it is in the original trilogy.
So next up, we've got Miranda.
I think I'd put Miranda at, I want to say 2, but I feel like 3 is more appropriate. Like, I like the mission, and it's interesting, and you find out more about her family, and then I like the emotional bit at the end, where she, like, can't even bring herself to face her sister, and then you can either be a renegade and say, all right, then let's just go, or you can be a paragon and force her to be like, no, that's your sister, you have to go talk to her. Like, I like the like the heartstrings involved. I just don't know if it's quite good enough to be at 2.
I suppose it is
I
one of
quite
those.
like. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like the Garrus one, it does seem to have those tedious moments, I guess, where the combat kind of gets in the way.
Well, I will say it is pretty. I don't think it's as. I mean, like, I'm not 100% sure, so don't yell at me. I feel like it is shorter than Garrus's, but I feel like it takes just as much time because none of the combat is normal. It's all like over a gap, and you have to like wait for the shipping crates to like move out of the way before you can even shoot or use a power.
I mean, it's
I
not
didn't like the fact that her sister didn't look like her. She's supposed to be her genetic twin.
Yeah, well, Miranda's also, what, in Mass Effect 2 she'd be 35, and what does she say her sister is? I think she said she's a senior in high school, so she'd be like 17 or 18 at the max. I'm sure if we compared a picture of you at 17 to a picture of you now, you wouldn't look the same either.
No, I had hair then.
Yeah, I know I definitely don't look the same.
But yeah, I like the fact that there is a mod that you can install that gives her the same model, makes it look like her.
You know, you can kill her sister in the third game if you want to really be evil.
Well, that's that annoys me about the third game, to be fair, because the whole point of her loyalty mission in the second game is to make sure that she's safe and she's protected into the family. And then come the third game, you just got to do it all over again. It's like, well, what was the point in that?
Well, to be fair, her dad is. It's not like her dad is just like some guy. Her dad has a lot of money and an extensive network. Like, that's how he found her in the first place. So it's not really that much of a stretch for that he'd find her again, especially that in the third game he's working for Cerberus, so he's got direct access. He has direct access to the Elusive Man. He's got the Elusive Man on speed dial. I mean, that's not that big of a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, also, I mean, you say like I mean, you know, at the end of the day, like the whole point of in 2 is to keep her alive in 2, and then she can be alive in 3. It's not like it's the hardest thing in the world to keep her alive in 3 anyway.
I'm pretty sure the only way you can kill her is Miranda has to be dead, and then you have to whiffle waff and not make a decision. And then when Henry falls over, he grabs and pulls her with him.
So what do we say then? 3? I'll go
I
with
feel
3.
like, yeah. Well, if the only thing is, I kind of want to say 2 because my only issues with her mission were the same issues I had with Garrus's, and we put Garrus as a 2. What do you think,
Yeah.
Kraig?
My initial thought was 2, so I think that makes sense.
Okay.
2 it is then. And then we got Mordens. I quite like Mordens, I must admit. I do like the fact that you can go there and you can say right from the start, genophage is a good thing, and he will say to you, no, it isn't. It was not done to wipe them out. It's done to control their numbers, and this is why. And then you go through the whole finding the dead Krogan, and it's kind of all set up to change your mind. And then you got that point at the very end where Malin is you completely lost it, but you can still see that he was trying to do the right thing, even though he was doing it the wrong way. So yeah, there's a lot of conflict in it. It's kind of funneled you down one aspect, and then it's trying to twist that on its head and make you change your mind and stuff. So I liked it.
I think it was interesting because it's funny. Actually, funny might not be the right. I don't even know what the right word is, but Morden comes across as such this staunch, like, scientist-y guy, like just completely, like, I just go by the book, numbers and what the science says, blah blah blah. But then in the mission, you find out like he's got like a weirdly philosophical side too, and religious side that like you never see any other time in the game. So I mean that part at least was interesting. Plus, I love his line about it when he says that he never performs surgery on creatures that can't do calculus. It's his personal thing.
Solve this maths equation and then I'll save your life.
And I like too when he said, when he was listing off, because I mean, like, it's so weird. Like he makes like this big, I guess it's like his duality, because he makes like this big thing when you find the dead female Krogan, and he like almost does like a prayer, but then like 2 minutes later, he's casually listing off all the different ways he's killed Krogan, and he's like, even at one point says he killed one with farming equipment. Like it's like at one point he's like super respectful to the dead, but then at the other, 500,000. Here's how I did it. I will say it is interesting.
Kraig?
Like again, it just.
Any thoughts on Mordens?
I was just going to say I genuinely did debate putting him on the list because it is a very interesting mission. Like it's like you said, it's like it's a whole kind of debate, I guess, where you really are kind of the game. There's the story is trying to sway you in one way or the other, and yeah, I think the whole thing about like, is it worth it when you see all of these bodies and things that like. I don't know. It's a really hard hitting one, and I think it is a good one.
I think the thing for me is at least those female Krogan volunteered, but all the humans he experimented on were prisoners. So I mean that kind of, it's like I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you save Malin to help the Krogan, then you have to leave David with Gavin and Project Overlord. Otherwise, you're being a hypocrite because they're the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we say? What, 2? 1?
I'd say 2 or 3. I don't think it's not a 1. I'd say it's either a 2 or a 3.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything to knock it down to a 3 that I can think of. I don't think there's anything that's bad about it, is there?
I personally would have put it as a 2.
Okay, then 2's fine, I guess then.
There we go. There's our list.
When the Krogan goes on the rant, do you shoot the thing and blow him up and light him on fire?
At the
start,
pipe.
right? Would you shoot the pipe to light the Krogan on fire?
Oh my god, yeah. That's brilliant.
Also, now that I'm thinking about it, I honestly don't know if I've ever actually saved Malin. Have either of you? Like, what happens if you do and you don't let Morden kill him?
I'm pretty sure you don't see him again. I think there's something in an email or like a shadow broker terminal thing. Like, I don't know. There's something about how he contributed. He contributes to the war effort, I think, in some way, but it's off screen. I don't know. It's all in an email.
Yeah. See, Terry gets it. You talk too much.
Which one? Who are we talking about?
That's what Shepard says when you shoot the pipe.
Oh, right. I see. Yeah, I get it.
And so that kind of brings us to the end. In the chat, just quick fire. Tell me who is your favorite. Should we do favorite or should we do worst?
Favorite?
Favorite loyalty mission. I'll put as many as I can up on screen. Tally's a babe. Can't see her face. How do you know? There we go. Look, Curtis likes Rex.
Rex.
Tally does have a nice butt, though. You don't really need to see her face if she has a nice butt and thighs.
There we got. We got one for Kasumi.
Do you mean Curtis finding Rex's armor, or what mission are you talking about?
Terry likes Garrus.
Fair enough.
I mean, to be fair, they are all quite different, aren't they?
I think there are
two.
The vast majority of them are good in their own way. I think it's actually quite hard to pick a top 3, to be honest, when you really think about it.
That's fair, but I just feel like if we had done a top 5, we would have had like even more overlap than we already did.
Yeah. It's just because all you've really got is Mass Effect 2 to go off of.
Yeah. Because, if we were including Andromeda, then Liam's would have 100% been my number 1. It's the greatest thing in the franchise.
Yeah, see, Tim can't even do that because I don't think he's done all the loyalty missions for Andromeda yet.
I know. That's why there better be a poll in your community tab about what will he do first, finish Andromeda or play Trespasser.
I've already had one vote for Trespasser.
Is it Matea who keeps bugging you every week to play it, or was that someone else?
Yeah, it's Matea. I can't just jump into Trespasser. I need to play it from the start. I need to do a whole Dragon Age playthrough, which I have started.
You mean like your Star Wars thing where you have to do like 556 different things, but they have to be in a certain order because you have OCD?
Yeah.
See, I have CDO. It's the exact same thing as OCD, but the letters are in the proper order.
Okay. I think that brings us to the end of the podcast and the live stream.
And I just want to thank Kraig again for complimenting my beard.
It's a very nice beard. And also, that's a very nice t-shirt, Tim. Is that a Cerberus t-shirt?
It's indeed.
Yeah. Well, it is the Lazarus Project.
Yeah. I need something. I've got an N7 thing, but I need something Cerberus themed.
The BioWare store sells Cerberus boxes if you want.
I saw that, yeah. I'm not showing up to another one of these in boxes, though.
So yeah, if you guys want to say goodbye to any people in the live stream, thank you very much for coming, everyone. And hope you have a wonderful day. We'll be back tomorrow with some Mass Effect 3 multiplayer.
Tim will schedule it for 10 after 2, but it'll probably be closer to 2:30, just so you know. Or what? 10 after 9 UK time, but it'll be like 9:30.
Yeah. Yeah, by the time I fix the computer and that.
Have you ever tried, like, if your computer is slowing down a bit, have you tried maybe like 15, 20 minutes before you go live, just flat out hard restarting it, just to, like, refresh it?
Yeah, I've kind of worked out that's what I need to do, is make sure it's turned on like 20 minutes before I start.
Okay.
That's why the latest live streams have been more or less on time. Right. But
I just noticed Kasumi was here
where?
in the back.
But no, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for the chat, guys. I'll make sure everything's passed over to you for editing purposes. And
Thanks for coming, everybody.
yeah, make
Sounds
sure
good.
you'll check it out on Spotify or Apple or
Are we on
Podbean.
Audible as well?
Audible, yeah, on Audible. So you'll be able to hear yourselves on the podcast when that's released. So hope you have a great night, day, morning, wherever it is, and we'll see you tomorrow for some Mass Effect 3 multiplayer.
Right.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.